You're listening to Thursday Night AMP on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Thursday Night Angry Marks Podcast. I am Jason Harland, a.k.a. the Great Sudoku. Stevie J will be joining us shortly, but in his absence currently I have, to the left of me, clowns and jokers to my right, but to the left of me we have Jordan. The J has now been added back in Garber.
That is right. Jordan J. Garber is back. Now, I woke up in the morning, I wore a parrot shirt today, and I said, you know what? The history of Jordan J. Garber has a lot of history. It extends to the good old days of 2015, when I interviewed Playboy cover girl Maria Kanellis. And you know what? Jordan J. Garber is back, and it's great to be here on Thursday Night AMP on AngryMarks.com.
And I'm glad to hear that, you're getting this Jordan J. Garber thing back. But in doing so, you put on a parrot shirt this morning because you couldn't be Jordan J. Garber without the parrot shirt.
You can't be Jordan J. Garber without the parrot shirt. You need the parrot shirt to be Jordan J. Garber. And you know what? I'm Jordan Garber. I'm Jordan J. Garber. I'm mixed up. I have many personalities. I'm a man of a million different tactics. So, indeed, Jordan J. Garber is one of them. And Jordan J. Garber is here tonight live from everyone around the world, whether they're listening at work, listening in the car, listening at the bar, listening to Screamo, listening to Slipknot, listening to anything. They're also listening to Thursday Night AMP, and they're listening to Jordan J. Garber live from around the world, baby.
Jordan J. Garber, the Mil Mascaris of gimmicks, man of 1,000 gimmicks here. Speaking of gimmicks, what I wanted to start off with here was something that Angry Marks had covered here that was reported by the Wrestling Observer. Leaks that are coming out that the WWE is preparing after WrestleMania to once again go to a brand split, Raw and SmackDown being separate shows with separate talent on each roster. From what the report says, there's graphics made for both Raw and SmackDown. The people on the Raw roster included John Cena, Kevin Owens, Bray Wyatt, Alberto Del Rio, Charlotte, and Nikki Bella, while SmackDown contained Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, The New Day, Dolph Ziggler, and Paige. My thinking on this is a brand split just blindly for the sake of a brand split does not make any sense and is not going to help WWE out at all. Unless you can make two shows, like one for sports entertainment and one for more pure wrestling, like something an NXT could feed into, there's really no point to doing a brand split if you're going to throw guys of differing styles on both shows. It would make more sense to consolidate your John Cena's and your Roman Reigns on one show and your Kevin Owens, your Dean Ambrose, your New Day, your AJ Styles, your Alberto Del Rio's on another show. I'll throw it over to Jordan here, though, and get your take on this.
Yeah, you're looking at the brand split here between Raw and SmackDown, and it's like one of those things. I know you don't really agree upon it, but let's be honest. Wrestling is not what it used to be as it was in the 80s. And you look at wrestling today, and yeah, it's really, really messed up sometimes, and there's a lot of just unnecessary things that people don't enjoy that much. And that's what wrestling podcasts are for everyone around the world to give their 2 cents on today's current product. However, looking at the brand split, it might be a good thing because me as a wrestling fan, I've always enjoyed the WWE draft. I've always enjoyed wrestlers being exclusive to a certain show. So in my opinion, I'm for the brand split. And you know what? If you don't watch Raw or SmackDown, that's okay. If you're a pure wrestling fan, then you could always tune into NXT.
And I think a brand split would also throw a monkey wrench into things in a few ways. The first one is, are we going to go back to brand exclusive pay-per-views in a market that is already oversaturated with more than one pay-per-view or network special event per month? We have something like 16, I think, events through the year, and are we going to have more now if you go to a brand split? Are we going to maybe use some of the events we have now as specific brand events? I mean, I know the big four will be co-branded, but that also brings up, the other 300-pound elephant in the room, the 3 hours of Raw. Are we going to keep Raw at 3 hours and keep SmackDown at 2 hours, which would kind of make SmackDown the lesser show? And would people want to tune into SmackDown after, being force-fed 3 hours of Raw on a weekly basis? Would that not burn most of your audience out? I mean, if you're going to do a brand split, I would say get rid of the third hour on Raw without a doubt, because after 3 hours of Raw on Monday, nobody is going to want to watch 2 hours of SmackDown later in the week. It's just overkill.
I agree. And you know what? If they do this brand split, they're gonna have to take away the 3 hours from Raw, move it to 2 hours on Raw, and do the 2 hours on SmackDown. Now, I don't know if you're a wrestling fan I know you're a wrestling fan for a long time, but if you remember the certain era in the WWE where they had Raw and SmackDown around 2007, 2008, even late, early into the 2010s, that was still enjoyable to watch. And I kind of hope it's like how entertaining it was in 2007, 2008, because there's a lot of action. But there's so much stuff you watch on TV right now, and it's like I'm texting my friends half the time when I'm watching Raw. There's only probably one match a night, and that's usually the match for Charlotte, the matches that Charlotte has. Well, I actually put down my fucking phone and I watch wrestling, and that's what WWE is lacking right now. And you know what? The problem is that WWE is sports entertainment, and I'm not gonna lie. To any aspiring wrestler in this business, you gotta be an entertainer. You gotta have personality. Yes, I have personality. That's why I'm getting my name out there as a wrestling podcaster. Sometimes it's not all about the wrestling, but people need to understand that there are some fans that just want to watch pure wrestling, and WWE should honestly offer more of that to wrestling fans of all ages so they get a better demographic, because their ratings are going down, and they're always going to continue to go down if they throw you the same old garbage.
Which brings me to another question, because yes, I did watch during the previous brand split, and I am familiar with the WWE history of the brand split, which brings me to my next question here, Jordan. There were two ways that they tended to run the brand split. One was where they brought out the big gold belt from WCW and had a SmackDown champion and a Raw champion, or whatever they called it, a world champion and a WWE champion. And the other way that they did it was to have one unified champion that could appear on both shows. If you were going to book a brand split, how would you have that done, with two belts or with one champion?
Two belts, because that adds more entertainment. There's a pay-per-view. Remember those big pay-per-views where there's a match for the World Heavyweight Championship, and then the other match, usually the main event, was for the WWE Championship? I miss the different storylines. There was way more storylines when they had two World Heavyweight titles. I mean, you can do that again, because the more storylines you have, the better it's going to be in some ways. There's more opportunity for it to be better. Who doesn't love a good old dramatic storyline? It's pretty cool. Besides the Tori Wilson and Al Wilson storyline, that was a little bizarre, but hey, it was entertaining. So they got to throw more storylines. Definitely, I don't know why they're getting rid of titles when they should be adding titles and more people even to their roster.
And a show note to our producer, Killer Kev. Stevie says that he is here and sign in if you want to bring him onto the line. And I'll get to my point I was going to say about the two belts. I agree with you, Jordan. I would do two belts because it does lend for more storylines. It gives somebody else a big push. I mean, heck, that's how John Cena rose to his popularity with his battles against JBL on SmackDown. But it also, I mean, if it tends to get stale, or if you want to do a really big blow-off, say at the end of the year or at WrestleMania, you could have a champion versus champion unification match. You can go the way of the champion goes back and forth. You could have a SmackDown guy say, I want to challenge you, but just for the SmackDown title, not for the unified title, to bring it back, or vice versa. So, there is some fun you could have with unifying the titles and then deunifying them too. But I definitely think that if we're going to start a brand split, then by all means start out with 2 separate belts.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? Like I said, they're unifying the titles, and honestly, like I said in my point earlier, they need to stop unifying these titles. They need to have more titles because that means there's more options for the WWE wrestling fan. And why they're unifying all these titles is beyond me. Like, for fuck's sakes, they got rid of the Cruiserweight Championship. There's some Cruiserweights on that roster, especially NXT, that can contend for that belt on the main roster. Wrestling is not what it used to be. And honestly, it's very frustrating and even depressing when I come home after a night out with my friends or whatever, and I watch the good old 2007, 2008 SmackDowns, and even the years earlier, even the 90s. There is competition for the Cruiserweight belt, and hopefully they bring it back. I've seen rumors on wrestling media, the exact same site Jordan J. Garber was on. So they're very good sources of information, but they need to bring back the Cruiserweight Championship. And if they bring back the Cruiserweight Championship, call up the Cruiserweights from NXT. That's going to make your product better because they're offering more wrestling. And that's going to even attract an audience that used to watch wrestling in the 80s, and they're going to say, wrestling's cool again. And that is the first step to make wrestling that cool thing again.
And one of the ideas that I would have if I was booking the brand split, yes, bring back the Cruiserweight title, but say you make SmackDown your show where the Cruiserweight title is defended and the tag team titles are defended. You want to be a Cruiserweight, you want to be a tag team, heck, even put the women's title in there. Change it from the Divas title to the women's title, or make a separate, women's title that isn't a Divas title. But, make SmackDown distinct and different enough from Raw, where only your tag teams are there, only your Cruiserweights are there. You can still have heavyweights, but have something unique that will draw viewers to SmackDown.
Exactly. And you know what? You bring up a good point there, Jason, about the Divas title. Why is there a Divas title? I miss the women's title. Honestly, that title is way more prestigious. They're taking away history when they do that by retiring the women's championship. Let's look at the Fabulous Moolah. One of the greatest women's wrestlers of all time has held that title for, how long has it been, Jason? Over 4 years or something like that? And they just threw out, it makes me mad because they throw out all that history of the business of that certain title, and they replace it with some Divas title that looks like some 15-year-old girl goes to school and looks like that. Like, it looks like stupid.
Belt that Jeff Hardy designed for TNA. But yeah, speaking of titles that went defunct, like the Cruiserweight title, Stevie J is now with us on the line, and he had wanted to chime in here on the Cruiserweight title scene.
Well, gentlemen, I'll address both points. First, I'll address the Divas title. I just read an interview by Charlotte where she talks about whether or not she would rather have the women's title, and she said, sure, it would be more prestigious, it would have more history, it would be nicer to put around my waist and look like a real championship, but if I defend it like a real champion, it doesn't matter whether it looks like a butterfly or a real title, it's still being defended with honor, and that's what I bring to the title. Which I thought was a good attitude to have, even though she wears a crummy-looking belt.
Although she's getting paid to say that. If any WWE superstar, if I land a contract with interviewing WWE stars, WWE's gonna have a filter on that. She has to say that. Deep inside, Charlotte would say, if she's on the indies, Charlotte would say, well, when I held the Divas title, it should have been the women's title, because Charlotte is a women's wrestler of honor. She has a great look, she's sexy, she can wrestle in the ring, and she's carrying some title that looks like I could draw a better idea. I could put a crayon up my ass, squat on a piece of paper, and create a better title design than that. It's a joke how, when they came out with that Divas title, it pissed me off. They should have had the Divas title and the women's title. Why would they retire the women's title with all the history it fucking has? What is WWE doing?
Jordan, that wasn't even the end of my point, though, but I'll address the thing that you said before I get back to my other point, which is, sure, you could stick a crayon up your ass, squat on a piece of paper, and design something that looks better, and sure, they have a WWE minder on the phone for these conversations, so she has to stay within the margins, but I don't think that came from a place of dishonesty, because Charlotte has worked her way up from NXT, where she was the champion there and held that belt, to being on the main roster, And that means something to her because she is the next generation of Flair. And if we're being perfectly honest, compared to Flair's other children, one of whom unfortunately passed away, one of whom was never really any good as a wrestler, she is the only one who can carry on that legacy now. So she may have said the corporate line, but I think she also means it too, because it means something to her as a Flair to be a great wrestler and to carry on that tradition. But before you go any further, Jordan, I want to go back to my original point, which Jason segued me to, which was the Cruiserweight title. I like that idea, but I don't like the name Cruiserweight title at this point because that became tainted goods, and it was a relief, quite frankly, when they discontinued that belt. If you're going to have a belt, you're going to have to call it something like the junior heavyweight belt or the middleweight title, something that will be a little more prestigious, because if you bring back the name cruiserweight title, people are going to associate that with the joke that the cruiserweight title became.
What was it the Lance Storm called the cruiserweight title in WCW, the 75 kilogram and under title or something like that?
Yeah, if you even called it that, it would have more prestige. If you called it the 70 kilogram and under title, it would have more heritage and prestige than if you called it the WWE Cruiserweight title.
And I had wanted to segue to something too. You were talking about legacies, and this Monday on Raw we had Terry Funk show up, and he gave a chainsaw to Dean Ambrose. And to me, Terry Funk giving a chainsaw to Dean Ambrose would be like Ric Flair giving the Black Scorpion mask to Charlotte. It's like, why would you want to bring up the worst point in your career and use that as a legacy to continue?
Because in the WWE modern history, that's going to be the only version of Terry Funk people know. It's like when they have Razor Ramon go into the WWE Hall of Fame. That is the gimmick they associate. If they never watched WCW, that is what they know Scott Hall for. We all would think making Scott Hall go into the Hall of Fame would make more sense, but WWE is always going to refer to things they did first.
I guess. I just think Terry Funk kind of transcends that he is known, not only around the United States, not only in Japan, but around the world. Japan, Puerto Rico, the United States, Mexico. Terry Funk has been everywhere, done everything. People know who Terry Funk is, and just that whole Chainsaw Charlie thing was just kind of a sore point with me. It's like, what, are we going to see Hacksaw next week on Raw giving Ambrose a 2x4?
Well, where else were you going to go with it, considering Mick Foley had already given him a barbed wire bat? I mean, they were a tag team, Chainsaw Charlie and Mankind, so you got to reference the history since Mick Foley already went there the first week of this whole idea. But I totally agree with you. Terry Funk does transcend that entire thing. I would say being the ECW World Champion and the NWA World Champion means way, 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 way more than Chainsaw Charlie.
And I think it would mean way more not to bring Terry Funk in at all, just to have Cactus Jack who can stand on his own. Even Cactus Jack's body of work within the WWE itself was leaps and bounds above what he did in a tag team in the WWE with Terry Funk. I think it takes away from, oh my God, here's Cactus Jack passing along the legacy of Barbie, this barbed wire rat bat, to Dean Ambrose by saying, oh, okay, well, that's not special anymore because this week we're going to have Terry Funk give him a chainsaw. It seems to take away from what Cactus Jack did the week before.
Jordan, are you playing the bongos over there?
What do you mean? Oh, I think I was typing on my phone. My apologies. I put you guys on a speakerphone, and I was messaging some chick, and I apologize about that. I had you guys on speaker. I had you guys on speakerphone, and I was literally checking a tweet that a great fan sent in, and now my Twitter is closed, so I can't retrieve the tweet because I'm going to sound like I'm playing the bongos again. So I'm just going to put the phone to my ear, listen to the great wrestling content that Angry Marks and Jordan J. Garber provide, and I'm going to enjoy myself for the 15 minutes that I am here for.
Well, I'm going to say for the future, and this is just coming from me as the quote-unquote boss of the network, no Snapchat, no tweeting during the show. If you want to tell people to send tweets to Jordan J. Garber, we'll read them on the air at the beginning of the show. Does that sound like an acceptable bargain? Okay. All right. Let's do that.
That sounds extremely acceptable, boss. And you know what? That is true. This is a new segment. This is called Jordan's Corner. If you guys want to send a tweet to Jordan J. Garber and me, myself, Jordan J. Garber, We'll answer your tweets live next week on Thursday Night AMP. I will do it at the beginning of the show because I love my fans. I love wrestling fans, and I love wrestling. And you know what? It's so sad that wrestling is not what it used to be. However, I have a feeling there might be a change. With all the independent wrestling promotions out there that I enjoy to watch, it kind of just fades my attention away from the WWE. So it's always good. So I do apologize for tweeting and talking. Next time I will get all my tweets collected and I will read them on the air.
It's all good, Jordan. No apology necessary. Just thought I would set the precedent here and now. But
at least I'm not eating those steak chips this time, like a year ago, a year on this day or whatever. It's pretty close to a year ago on this day. We were doing the Extreme Roast preview. I said a snarky, controversial comment, and then we talked about meat chips. And I'll be honest, later that night, it was not a good night. Not a good night at all.
All right. Well, then if it's not a good night, we don't need to revisit past history, which is what I think Jason was driving at by saying, don't bring up Chainsaw Charlie. That's just revisiting bad history. But speaking of revisiting history, this entire Undertaker Shane McMahon angle has been a walk down memory lane because all they can do is point out the fact that Undertaker has only lost once at WrestleMania and he's got all this great legacy, and Shane McMahon has this, well, if you to call it great legacy, I would go ahead and say great legacy for jumping off high things. And they've made this the focal point of WrestleMania now, but it apparently needed extra sauce on it. Good old JR would spice this up with a little barbecue sauce, if you will, because now they've added the stipulation, if Undertaker loses, he's forced to retire.
Can I jump in on this one here, Stevie?
Yes, because I was about to say, what? And you can answer that question. What?
Hello?
The floor is yours. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, with the announcement when Vince McMahon came out and said the Undertaker is his bitch that they silenced, and he said that if the Undertaker loses, that will be his last match in the WWE. The fan reaction was complete crickets. I mean, there was like an ooh and an ah here and there from like 3 people in the crowd, but for the most part, it was just like, eh. They just really didn't care that this could be the last match of the Undertaker.
And it's hard to even figure out what I actually want from this match now because of this stipulation. Okay, originally people proposed the idea that Taker would do what he was supposed to do. He would go out there and be a man on a mission because he has pride and he won't fail just because he has pride. I was willing to buy that, even though it sets him up in a villainous role. He's defeating Shane. He's keeping control for the Authority. None of these are good things you would want for The Undertaker, but he has pride. He's not going to go out there and lose. Well, now they've even removed the possibility that he would think better of the idea and he would do the job for Shane McMahon because he doesn't want the Authority in control. Now he'd be sacrificing his own career and not just the loss at WrestleMania, which incidentally, he's already lost at WrestleMania, which kind of makes that whole idea meaningless now. I just don't even get what the fuck is the point now, because he can't lose or he has to retire. Does anybody even believe he's going to retire off of this? No. Did anybody think he was even going to lose in the first place? No. Why even bring Shane back for this angle if there's no way he can win? Again, I say, what?
Yeah, that has no place being as high as it is on the card and being the stipulation of Undertaker retiring. I mean, it's a good match, but yeah, the whole control of the company thing, it would be a good match. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see it without these stipulations in there. Yeah, let's see Shane McMahon come back and take on the Undertaker if there's a good storyline. There's not a good storyline, but good storylines are few and far between these days in the WWE.
They've just booked this entire thing backward into a corner. If it was just a one-on-one match between Shane and The Undertaker without any extra stipulations on it, I'd be like, cool, Shane McMahon is back. He's a fucking lunatic. Undertaker's probably going to kill him, but it'll be fun for 20 or 25 minutes. But then they added Hell in a Cell, then they added control of Raw, then they added retirement. They've killed the whole fucking thing.
They gimmicked that one up, and that was another thing that I had a problem with the IC title match as well, too, with Kevin Owens. It's like, not only is he in there in, like a 6-7 man match for the WWE IC Championship, but it's a ladder match in addition to that. We don't need all these gimmicks to get WrestleMania over. Well, maybe you do with the shit you're booking these days, but yeah, really, you should not have all these gimmicks and stipulations, and just let the wrestling speak for itself on your biggest show of the year, not the gimmicks and not the stipulations.
Well, since you brought up the IC match, roundtable on this one, starting with Jordan. Zack Ryder, does he need to be in this, and is anybody buying him in it? Starting with you, Jordan.
Well, you know what? The only reason why I could see Zack Ryder being in this matchup is perhaps they are giving him a push to become a star, or for the other reason, and probably the most obvious reason for all the fans watching WrestleMania, is that it's a filler. They said, ooh, Triple H is like, ooh, let's come up with this Southernweight Championship match, and we'll throw Zack Ryder in there, just fill it up. That's probably what it is. It's a 7-man ladder match. Zack Ryder wants his moment. He's probably going to get his moment in that match. And you know what? I probably see him leaving the company shortly after.
You know, you're even more right than you know. Not about him leaving, but about him being filler. He is literally stepping into Neville's boots at this point. Neville would have had that spot. Neville got hurt. Zack Ryder just got to be the warm body to fill space. And I don't even think they needed to add a 7th man to it. I think they could have just said, well, Neville's out. The match doesn't need another man. It's already crazy enough as it is. And I'm not even taking anything away from Zack Ryder on that, because woo, 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 you know it, bro. I actually like Zack Ryder, but the idea that he's suddenly getting a push and television time out of nowhere just to be another warm body in a clusterfuck, that's not even the way I would use him. If you want Zack Ryder to be over, build it up for a couple of months that he's trying to get into WrestleMania. He's out there hustling. He's winning matches on Main Event and Superstars. He's begging Triple H for a way to be on the card. Triple H keeps shooting him down. Finally, Neville gets hurt, and he says, bro, you know it. I want that spot. And then Triple H has to reluctantly say, okay, it was going to Neville, but since he's out, you're in. And then it would be a celebratory moment. Finally, Zack Ryder gets his break. And then we could all be happy about it. There, I've just booked a better storyline than the fucking so-called creative team. What do you say, Jason?
Bye. That's what I have to say to Zack Ryder's chances in this match. I mean, honestly, in this match, you have one legitimate contender in Sami Zayn and 2 kind of has-beens in Dolph Ziggler and The Miz. Everybody else is just filler and throwaway.
It is. And this whole WrestleMania card feels that way to me in so many respects. And I'm going to WrestleMania, and I should feel that way. I should feel like these matches are important and meaningful and have real stars. But I get this sinking feeling that they're just throwing shit at a wall to see what sticks.
Well, at least
it's
you're going to take over
Steve,
Dallas.
Because,
what's that? You were both talking.
Sorry, my apologies. You're bringing up, Steve, that you're going to WrestleMania, and I feel both happy for you and both feel sorry, not both feel, that makes no sense. I both feel sorry and happy for you, because why I feel happy for you is because you're seeing the grand spectacle of pro wrestling, which is WrestleMania, but you are seeing Braun Strowman. You know how that's going to be the most boring 10 minutes ever. I've had to drive, when I was not booked, but when I was involved in the show in Minnesota for Steel Domain Wrestling, that is, watching Braun Strowman wrestle is like driving down the streets, like driving down the highway of North Dakota. That is literally, I'd rather, actually I enjoy the road. That's not really a good example, but literally, for a random
it's a great example. It's a perfect example, because there are long stretches of the Midwest that I will speak to as a lifelong resident of the Midwest, except for a couple of years in Michigan. Driving through North Dakota, driving through western Nebraska, driving through rural Iowa, driving through large stretches of Minnesota is boring as fuck.
It is. And once you enter Minnesota, it becomes a more entertaining drive. But you're like that Braun Strowman. You're going through that 10 minutes of literally watching yourself drive 10 minutes down the highways of North Dakota. That's how boring it is. As a matter of fact, I'd rather go down the streets of North Dakota than watch him in the ring. He's terrible, and I know he's trying his best to develop and become a better wrestler, but right now it's just not clicking for me.
I feel like you just coined a Bruce Springsteen song live on the air. Streets of North Dakota. Now, Jason, I believe you were saying at least I'm going to take over. I agree with you. Yes, thank God I'm going to take over.
Yeah, the takeover card just looks so wonderful. And as I was saying off the air in a little chat before we went on air, it's like poor Sami Zayn. He goes from at NXT TakeOver Dallas, what could be match of the year, him versus Shinsuke Nakamura, to what could be the clusterfuck match of the year in the 7-man ladder WWE IC title match.
Except there's a chance I can see him hit the hell of a kick at WrestleMania. Even if it's a clusterfuck, I still like that idea that I get to see Sami Zayn do that at WrestleMania and get the WrestleMania payoff. Because more than anything else, he deserves that WrestleMania payoff.
He does. He's working both rosters right now, and he deserves it more than anyone.
Yes, indeed. So even when you complain, and you did rightfully complain about the way AJ Styles has been used in the last week or two, I would still say, by God, he gets the WrestleMania payoff. He gets that 6-figure, 5-figure, whatever amount it is. He gets that nice little bonus just for being on WrestleMania, and he deserves that.
He does, although I think they're doing it all wrong. It's like they gave away, 3 times already, Jericho versus Styles for free. They just gave away what should have been the WrestleMania match, Styles versus Owens, for free, which was a phenomenal match. This was a good 3.5-star match, and I didn't even mind the finish so much. What I minded with this is how they're booking AJ Styles into the ground, where Styles comes out to return the favor with interference, and it doesn't work. I mean, they took what was a great match, and they just completely buried AJ Styles later in the show.
Which is why I'm betraying what I said to you early when I get angry about these WrestleMania booking mistakes that they've made. Because I said to you, if you don't get angry about it and you just accept that it's shit, and sometimes it's going to be better and sometimes it's not, but if you accept a base level of shit, you can't get too mad about it. But I can't even help myself. When we talk about it, I do actually get mad. I live up to the name Angry Marks.
That was something that made me very angry, and just kind of how they're handling AJ Styles as a whole since he's been brought in, and I'm very, very leery of what they're going to do with Shinsuke Nakamura, and I hope for Nakamura's sake that he stays on the NXT roster for quite some time and does not come up to the main roster right away.
That's not going to happen. They're paying him main event money. They're not going to leave him on NXT when they're paying him main event money. Even though it would be better for him and better for NXT and better for the wrestling fans, they're not going to do that. They're only going to leave him there long enough to get acclimated to the quote-unquote WWE style and then bring him up right away. So just accept it now. And I'll just go to Jordan with that one. AJ Styles, do you think there's any hope at this point for how he's used on the main roster? And or what do you think about Shinsuke Nakamura coming up right away?
Oh, man, Nakamura going to WWE is definitely a great asset to the company and to the NXT fans watching from around the world. And seeing AJ Styles, I know you guys are saying, oh, he should, they're not using him right. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. It's gonna come. And you know what? There's a lot of scenarios where they bring in all these free agent independent wrestling talent, and everyone expects them to be on top at the first glance. But the problem is, AJ Styles, he's in the WWE, guys. He is here. He is on WWE. He has fulfilled his dream. And you know what? It's only going to be a certain amount of time before he's a WWE champion. However, there is that chance where he becomes a bust during his time in the WWE. Hopefully they use him right. Right now, I'm just being patient on the situation. He's in storylines right now with Kevin Owens, which is honestly not a storyline, but that match with Kevin Owens was great because Kevin Steen, Ring of Honor, AJ Styles, TNA, Ring of Honor, New Japan. Matches like that at the top level of this business don't get much better than that. Hopefully, AJ Styles does get a push, but right now, I'm optimistic. I'm just really excited to see him in the company, and hopefully he continues to grow and develop within the WWE main roster, and then he definitely should get the push he deserves. Just give it some time.
I was optimistic when he came in at the Royal Rumble. I was optimistic when they gave him a feud with Jericho. Even over Abby's objections, and a shout out to Abby, we hope you're back on here real soon, I thought it was still going to work. And the longer it's gone, the less hope I've had. It's basically the Kevin Owens situation, because first week he was on main television, I was like, great. Kevin fucking Owens from NXT, Kevin Steen from Ring of Honor and PWG. They're giving him the big win over John Cena right away. This is going to work. And then it all went downhill from there. I again and again, when I get excited about these guys that they brought in that I followed on the independents, I'm really happy for the first few months, and then it just goes nowhere. Neville, happy the first couple of weeks, it went nowhere. Cesaro, happy the first couple of weeks, it went nowhere. And once again, I just got to give credit where credit is due. Jason, you called this when we had a discussion about it in PMs. It's just the way WWE drags everything down to their level. No matter how good these guys are, sooner or later, they end up mired in this system and they can't get out.
And that's unfortunate.
That's why most of them quit.
And that's one of the things that I was hoping that a brand split would alleviate, that you would have a brand dedicated to guys like AJ Styles, to guys like Cesaro, to guys like Kevin Owens, to guys like Neville, a place where these guys don't have to be 8 foot tall, 300-pound, ripped and shredded giants to get over.
What you're hoping for, if I'm reading you correctly on this one, is the days of the quote-unquote SmackDown 6, where SmackDown was its own separate brand and had the best wrestlers in the company, and those 6 guys, week in and week out, always delivered A+.
More or less. I mean, basically a main roster NXT show.
They're never going to do that. In the immortal words of Dave Meltzer, well, that's not going to happen.
Probably not. It would make them lots and lots of money, but it's not going to happen.
Well, you know what? You just hit the nail on the fucking head. They don't care if it would make them lots of money because they're already making lots of money. They are so insulated from having to worry about whether they make a good product or not that they don't even need to try because they're raking in record profits. They've got record numbers of WWE Network subscribers. They're doing record merchandise sales. They couldn't possibly care what you, I, or Jordan have to say about this because they are rolling in dough. They don't need to make more money because they're already making so much they don't have room to put it all anywhere. They need the Scrooge McDuck vault that they can dive into full of gold coins. That's how much money they have.
Here's a negative record I think they're going to set, too, coming up in April. I think you're going to see a record number of WWE Network cancellations because in the month of April, you can get both NXT TakeOver Dallas and WrestleMania for free by signing up for the network for your free month and then just canceling. And I think you're going to see a lot of people doing that.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but every time that's ever been predicted, it has gone the exact opposite direction. You remember that when Daniel Bryan got thrown out of the Royal Rumble, hashtag cancel WrestleMania was trending? That didn't happen. In fact, they had a record number of signups that month, immediately after the Royal Rumble. So it had the opposite effect. All of the negative publicity actually skyrocketed their subscriber rate.
Well, you know what it is that all the negative publicity after the Royal Rumble, what happened, literally, was everyone said, oh, I want to watch the good old days of this business. I want to watch ECW. I want to watch NWA Mid-South. That's not on the network. But I want to watch the good old days. I want to watch the WCWs. I want to watch the ECWs. I want to watch the 2002 era of WWE, even the 80s, the 90s, all of this, the old pay-per-views, everything. I want to see the good old days this business has had. And literally, people are so depressed over the product they're currently watching that they're going to buy the WWE Network and subscribe to these old products and all these old shows and all of that.
You know, I think you've got a point there. I once again have to agree with you, Jordan. I feel like you may have hit the nail on the head. Everybody just said, fuck this shit, for $9.99 a month, I can go back and watch anything I want. And I'm actually looking at the network right now trying to figure out whether Mid-South Wrestling is in the vault or not, because to me, it feels like I must have watched Mid-South on there at some point with Bill Watts and good old JR, but I can't say that for certain, and I'm poking around trying to find it right now.
I don't think they have Mid-South yet. Mid-Atlantic, maybe?
maybe I'm thinking of Mid-Atlantic and not Mid-South, but I definitely know I've gone back and watched some stuff from the 1980s on there. So if it wasn't Mid-South, it was Georgia Championship Wrestling or early WCW or AWA. I've watched plenty of 80s content on there.
We need to get Angry JR on here to talk about his good old buddy Bill Watts.
But final statement from me is that, you know what, whether the business has changed, in which it has, or if it hasn't, there's always good old wrestling we can watch, and there's always the future, and we can always be optimistic about the future and see how that lays out. Unfortunately, though, I do have to run, but do you mind, Stevie, if I give a few plugs on the show tonight?
No, go ahead. Get those plugs in before you have to run.
All right. Awesome stuff. And once again, thank you guys so much for bringing on Jordan J. Garber. Once again, as you can hear me every Thursday on AngryMarks.com. But the first plug is I was down in Steel Domain Wrestling in Richfield, Minnesota last weekend, and I got an opportunity to be doing some podcasts for them. So see me even more involved with Steel Domain Wrestling in the very near future. If you guys don't know what Steel Domain Wrestling is, this is where CM Punk got his start. This is where Colt Cabana got his start. This is where he had those classic matches with Ace Steel. Steel Domain Wrestling is the wrestling to check out if you are in the Midwest. Stevie, I know you probably heard of Steel Domain Wrestling and the continued history of it. And honestly, the promoter is nothing more than a class act. So check out that coming soon. For more information on some upcoming Steel Domain Wrestling stuff I'm doing, check out my Twitter at Jordan J. Garber. Jordan Garber Now with Cody Diener was on yesterday at 10:30 p.m. Central Time on VOCNation.com. It's every Tuesday at 10:30 p.m. Central, 10:30 p.m. Central, 11:30 p.m. Eastern, on VOCNation.com. Next week we have an interview that I taped with Kenny Omega from New Japan Pro Wrestling, a topic you guys are probably going to be talking about when I'm off the air, so check that out. Next Tuesday, 10:30 p.m. Central, 11:30 p.m. Eastern on Jordan Garber Now. And for more news and updates, of course, follow me on Twitter at Jordan J. Garber. Thanks for having me, guys. I greatly appreciate it.
No problem, Jordan. Have a great night. We'll see you next week.
You too. Take care, guys.
All right. And while Jordan was giving his cheap plugs, I continued my search. And Kevin, you're going to have to eat a little crow here because I'm looking at it right now and it says Mid-South 10/29/83, October 29, 1983. Dusty Rhodes acts as the special referee when Butch Reed defends his North American title against the Junkyard Dog, plus Magnum TA and more. And there is a whole page of this. So Mid-South Wrestling is definitely in the archive.
That sounds good.
I know what he's going to be doing after we're done taping the show.
Gotta watch my friend Bill Watts.
No, if Angry JR was here, he'd just say, WWE Network, you haven't paid me any royalties. Go fuck yourself.
Go fuck yourself. Shout out to Blade Braxton before we continue.
Yes, indeed. Shout out to Blade Braxton. So, it's AngryMarks.com. It's Thursday night AMP. We just had Jordan J. Garber on. Jason Harlan and I are still here, and I know there's news in New Japan that Jason wants to talk about.
There is the upcoming Invasion Attack and the Road to Invasion Attack. The first show is coming up on Easter Sunday, and with the setting the clocks ahead an hour, it's actually going to start at 5:30 in the morning instead of 4:30 in the morning. But the interesting thing I want to mention, there's two things that I want to mention. I'm going to do a little preview of the actual Invasion Attack card itself, which is happening on April the 10th. Something that will interest Stevie J. Yes, Tama Tonga's brother, they're calling him Tonga Roa or Tonga Loa. I can't tell by the bad translation on the New Japan website. But the guy who played Camacho in TNA, he is coming into New Japan, and he will be teaming up with Tama Tonga, and they are taking on the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Champions Tomoaki Honma and Togi Makabe. That'll be going down at Invasion Attack proper on April the 10th.
That's fantastic news. We did predict this. We did say that Tavita Fafita was coming in and he would be the newest member of the stable. So they have fulfilled that promise. This is when wrestling being predictable is a good thing because you ask for something and you get what you asked for.
You're getting exactly what you were told and exactly what you expected, and it's not a swerve. You see, Vince Russo, you don't need to have swerves around every single corner. But yeah, interesting. This team is calling themselves Guerrillas of Destiny, so I don't know if that's going to further divide an already divided Bullet Club who has the Elite and now this Guerrillas of Destiny group, or if it's just a name that they're using. But speaking of that Elite group, also on the actual April 10th card, we have Nick and Matt Jackson, the Young Bucks, teaming with Kenny Omega, who Jordan J. Garber will be interviewing. But, and oh my God, I saw this and I was like, oh hell no. They are taking on the team of Michael Elgin, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Yoshi fucking Tatsu. I really hope Yoshi Tatsu is better in the ring than he is behind the microphone.
Well, he was a pretty damn good wrestler in the ring until he took the Styles Clash that quite literally broke his freaking neck.
Hopefully he will be able to come back from that and show a lot more than he showed on the microphone. I mean, I don't even know how to specify how bad he was at Wrestle Kingdom 10. It would be like if I went to do Triple Mania in Mexico for their Spanish commentary. It's like I could do it, but I would be really poor at it.
You know, speaking of commentary, I just saw a note, like literally today or yesterday, and I'm trying to find it, but the note read that they were going to have English commentary for Invasion Attack, and maybe you know who it was that was going to do it, because I'm trying to pull it up and I don't know where I put that note.
I did not hear about that. The one interesting note that I did see right on NJPW.
I got it.
You got it? Who's doing it?
Kevin Kelly and Steve Corino.
Oh, Steve Corino. Okay. Not bad. Yeah. I mean, if you can't get, Matt Stryker, who's busy doing the Lucha Underground stuff, hey, Steve Corino's a good fill-in.
Yes, King of Old School and a former guest of our show. We love Steve Corino around these parts. We might even have to get him on to talk about Invasion Attack. But
that would be amazing.
Please go ahead, and I'll keep that in mind for booking, but you go back to what you were saying. I apologize.
Sure. There was something that really stood out to me looking at the New Japan World schedule. Not Easter Sunday show, not the first Road to Invasion Attack show, but the second Road to Invasion Attack show that's going on April 1st is listed as being totally free. So if I'm reading that right, I'm guessing that anyone can just log on to njpwworld.com or just go to that site. You don't even have to log on. Just go to the site on April the 1st at 5:30 in the morning, and you can catch Road to Invasion Attack for free. Hopefully it's not an April Fool's joke.
Well, I guess that means we won't have to give away our promo codes yet, because if everybody can watch for free, we'll save it until they actually need it.
Save it for the actual Invasion Attack. We'll give that away before the 410 show. But yeah, I did want to run down the card coming up for Easter Sunday at 5:30 in the morning, which looks good. This card looks every bit as good, if not better, than the actual Invasion Attack card.
Well, then by all means, let's run it down.
I'm going to start it off. We've got the full band of brothers here in Chaos back together. This is going to please Stevie J to no end. We've got Toru Yano and Tomohiro Ishii teaming up with Beretta and Rocky Romero. RPG Vice is back in New Japan. And
Roppongi Vice.
Roppongi Vice. I may have to put that as my ringtone on my phone again. But yeah, we got Roppongi Vice and Yano and Ishii in an 8-man tag team match, starting things off against David Finlay, Tiger Mask, Jushin Liger, and Kushida. That should be a dandy.
That sounds damn good to me.
I don't know who will be eating the pin in that one. Probably David Finlay. As much as I like and admire David Finlay, he's kind of the odd man out in that one.
Plus, in terms of New Japan overall, he's still a young boy compared to everybody else.
He is. He's had some great matches against Jay White in that New Japan Cup. It's like, especially the early round matches were amazing. But yeah, he is still, hopefully at some point in this year, he and Jay White can both transition to that level above young boy, kind of the level where Juice Robinson is right now.
I was just about to say that too. I was like, you know what? Juice Robinson can fill those shoes and they can move up.
I wouldn't mind that at all. Yeah, I mean, I have seen more out of Finlay and White than I have out of Robinson, but that just may be because they're hungry or because they are the young lions fighting to get that spot.
Plus, he's so new in New Japan that he hasn't even paid enough dues yet to even be the young boy. He's like still mopping the floors and pouring out the rice for everybody. He hasn't even gotten to young boy status yet.
He hasn't gotten there yet. We have another 8-man tag team match following that. We have Manabu Nakanishi and Yugi Nagata teaming up with Satoshi Kojima and Hiroshi Tenzan. So we got the ornery uncles and the crazy uncles, as Abby likes to call them. They're all teaming up together to take on the aforementioned Juice Robinson, Katsuyori Shibata, Ryosuke Taguchi, and Captain fucking New Japan. And guess who's eating the pin in this one?
Captain fucking New Japan.
Exactly. We know who's counting the lights in this one, but that'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see Nakanishi, Nagata, Kojima, and Tenzan working as a unit. The four most veteran seasoned guys that have been in New Japan since Scott Norton was IWGP champion. But yeah, you've got just tons of experience there in the ring, and it'll be interesting to see how those four work as a unit together.
Can I say, just as a segue, this is one of the things that I actually love about New Japan is that the veterans don't have to be at the top of the card all of the time. I like the fact that guys who have been there forever, who are the old lions, who really know what they're doing, can actually be in the opening or the second match of a card. I think that's great.
I mean, that's another thing that I like about New Japan, too, is you generally have talent stacked from the bottom of the card to the top.
Indeed.
You have, Jushin Thunder Liger in the first match is a legend. Tiger Mask, who, again, is a legend. You have Kushida, who is your junior heavyweight champion. You have Roppongi Vice. You have Tomohiro Ishii, the ROH television champion and former Never Openweight champion, and the Clown Prince of Chaos, Toru Yano, in that opening match. So, yeah, from opening to closing, New Japan does a good job at stacking the card with talent. Even with the talent that they've had rated from them recently, they still find a way to stack the card from top to bottom.
And another quick segue. If you want to see Tomohiro Ishii defending the ROH Television Championship, tune into your local Sinclair or go to ROHWrestling.com, or if you have Comet, tune into the Comet channel on your provider, because those title defenses are taking place on Ring of Honor Television this week as we speak.
That is awesome. I may just have to check that out, and then maybe by watching Tomohiro Ishii defend that ROH title, I will vanquish the nightmares I've had about Gabe Sapolsky.
I hope that does the trick for you. But back to the Road to Invasion Attack.
Yeah, the Road to Invasion Attack. What I really like about the next series of matches that are coming up, we have a series of singles matches, and they are all New Japan guys versus Bullet Club guys. And I really like this concept, and it looks like they're kind of abandoning that when we get to the actual Invasion Attack itself. But hey, I like this format, and maybe they'll bring it back at a later pay-per-view. First singles match we have is Michael Elgin taking on Cody Hall, and I'm sorry, Cody Hall, but you're getting broken in half here.
Yeah, he's not only looking up at the lights, he's looking up at the ambulance lights.
Yeah, Michael Elgin's gonna kill you. That's all I gotta say about this match.
Oh, yes, indeed.
A really interesting match. It's easy to predict the winner in this, but I'm still looking forward to it. We have Jay White taking on Kenny Omega. And I don't see Jay White winning this, but I see it being an opportunity for Jay White to kind of rise to that level Omega's at in terms of work rate and performance.
That's just what I was going to say, too. Like, he's not winning, but they'll give him something. It'll be like Triple H with Dean Ambrose, and I know that's a terrible example, and I apologize, but even so, Triple H gave him a lot in that match, and that's what I see Kenny Omega doing for Jay White here. Yeah,
I hope so. I hope we get to continue to see that almost Okada-like height that Jay White gets on his drop kicks, and especially that shotgun drop kick he does from the top turnbuckle. I'd love to see him nail Omega with that. Even in a loss, it's fun to watch Jay White. It's fun to watch David Finlay. It's fun to watch these two hungry young lions fighting for a spot on that roster. I do think Kenny Omega is going over, but I think this match is going to be better than it has any right to be.
I totally agree.
The third singles match we have is Hiroshi Tanahashi taking on Yujiro Takahashi. So we got Tanahashi versus
Wait a minute. You gotta say Cenahashi in tribute to Abby.
It's John Cenahashi with his stupid Tana, stupid ponytail, stupid braids. I can't quite get that southern accent in there enough, but yeah, that's my tribute to Abby. Stupid Tana, stupid braids.
Well, she'd also be bitching about Takahashi if she was here too.
And the sleeve. I don't know who to cheer for in the sleeves versus the hair.
I would cheer for the sleeves, quite honestly.
Yeah, I'm not a big Tanahashi fan, but I can't see Takahashi winning because they haven't been pushing him lately, in tag team action with Cody Hall or even in singles action. And for God's sake, New Japan, please have Takahashi come out with Mao. We miss Mao. We want Mao back. Bring her back.
Yes, indeed. If you're gonna be sleazy, be sleazy.
Be sleazy with a hot looking Asian chick.
Damn straight.
And if
Moving
it's
on.
going to be hot-looking Asian chick, at least it should be Mao. So I see Tanahashi going on. Yeah, match number 4. We have Tomoaki Honma taking on Bad Luck Fale. And I honestly see Fale going over in this one because he's had a bit of a push lately. And, yeah, I mean, he attacked Honma after that last match they had at one of the New Japan Cup things. So I would like to see Fale go over and continue that push here against Honma. And Honma can lose every match he's in and still be over with the New Japan crowd. He does not need wins to get himself over.
Speaking of things that have been reported in the news on AngryMarks.com and elsewhere, the fact that you say Bad Luck Fale is going over, and we also talked about the fact that Tama Tonga's brother is coming in, coincides with the news that New Japan is looking at touring in New Zealand and Australia.
Which would be cool. Jay White is from New Zealand, so yeah, be a homecoming for him.
Yes,
but
they
yeah,
definitely...
Maybe scout some local talent from New Zealand too. Put some feelers out while they're there.
Absolutely. It seems like they're going in that direction of building up to competition. In fact, the other part of that same report was that they're even considering going public to raise some capital so they can attract even more talent from that region of the area and combat WWE trying to recruit the same people.
Which I think New Japan has a distinct advantage in that they're geographically closer to New Zealand and Australia than the United States is.
I think so. I think if they really hit that market hard, if they invade that market, so to speak, then they could get ahead of WWE and hopefully ride the wave of momentum of being first.
And this was something that I was chatting with Abby about earlier in the day. And again, feel better, Abby. But I was saying, if New Japan really wants to attract more subscribers to the network, and this would definitely help them in places like Australia and New Zealand, what they should do, and I was saying, do this for at least all the main pay-per-views, but maybe even for the Road to pay-per-views too. But bring in crews that do commentary in English language and bring in another crew that does commentary in Spanish language, in addition to the Japanese guys that you have calling the action. I was saying, hey, you could get guys like Striga, you could get guys like me, you could get a gal like Abby, you could really lowball us on an offer to do commentary, and we would jump at the chance to do it.
Of course. Hey, stranger things have happened. I remember when there's a Best of New Japan DVD, or maybe it was Best of All Japan DVD that I bought that actually had English language commentary on it by Adam Summers and Mike Sempervive from the Big Audio Nightmare at WrestlingObserver.com. So these things do happen.
Yeah, and it would be nice to see them expand into that area to kind of an untapped market thus far in terms of wrestling, other than Jay White. But yeah, to bring in some new young lions, new Gaijin young lions for that matter.
Yes, indeed. But the rest of Road to Invasion Attack.
Rest of the Invasion Attack, yeah, we have the second to last match on the card. We have Togi Makabe taking on Tama Tonga. This will be interesting. They have been pushing Tama Tonga lately. He did hit the head shrinker DDT in his last match for the win on the New Japan Cup, but Makabe is just so much bigger than him and could just break him in half. So, and Makabe is one half of the tag team champions. So that's tough to call. And that is kind of leading up to the tag team championship match on the 10th with Tama Tonga. And
yeah, I would kind of say he has to lose here and then win the tag team match.
Maybe. I mean, I could actually see him winning here if Bullet Club is at ringside and interferes.
Well, yeah, I will give you that. Now, wait a minute. Do we know which matches Red Shoes is working on this show?
I do not know. I'm not looking, but yeah, there you go. If it's Red Shoes, he may throw him out of the back, or I mean, there's some. It's like Red Shoes seems to have a very low tolerance for Bullet Club shenanigans, but then there's other guys. There's other guys who could like shoot Red Shoes in the knees. You could kneecap him with a gun, make love to his wife at ringside, and he still wouldn't disqualify you. So you never know what's going on with Red Shoes.
Right, exactly. That's why I was thinking it makes all the difference in the world what chance Bullet Club has of interfering, depending on whether Red Shoes works this match or not.
Is it Red Shoes or not? And then you have the main event on Road to Invasion Attack here on Easter Sunday, a 6-man tag team match. We have Los Ingobernables de Japan. We have Tetsuya Naito, Evil, Mr. Crushed Velvet himself, and Bushi taking on the Chaos. I guess Hiroki Goto is now in Chaos because we have him, Yoshihashi, and Kazuchika Okada on the other side. So I don't know if Goto is officially in Chaos now, or if they're giving him a tryout, or if he's just teamed up with them. But that has been the storyline of late, is Kazuchika Okada trying to tempt Hiroki Goto to come into the fold and join Chaos.
I'm all for it if that's the way it plays out. I got no objections.
Oh, I'm sick of Hiroki Goto. I want to see them send him to Noah. They're doing sweet fuck all with Goto. There's no place on the roster right now for Goto. His style would get over in Noah. Send him to Noah, please.
Dude, I've heard the exact opposite argument on several different shows now, including, once again, going to throw a shout out to Mike Sempervive and Adam Summers, because they talked about this. Why not just fold Noah at this point? Because you need the talent in Noah in the main New Japan roster with all the guys that WWE keeps signing.
Yeah, I was saying that earlier in the year, and they didn't pull the trigger on that. I mean, I would like to see that. I would love to see the Suzuki-gun guys come back. Hey, bring Taka Michinoku back in. Bring Shelton Benjamin. Bring Killer Elite Squad. Bring Minoru Suzuki. Heck, bring El Desperado in too. Bring them all in. Bring in, Taichi and Taiji Ishimori and Marufuji. Bring them all in. It would be good to see. I just don't think Bushi Road is going that way with their decision to not fold Noah. For some reason, they like running to houses that generally draw 200 people. It's baffling.
That was exactly the other thing that Mike said about it was, why are they propping up this company that's only drawing 200 people to a show? It feels backward. I mean, at least WWE propping up NXT is A, perfect for developmental, and B, draws way more than 200 people to their shows. They're probably going to have like 10,000 for TakeOver.
My speculation is it's out of reverence, deference, respect to Mitsuharu Misawa. I mean, that's the only reason I can think that they're keeping it going, is because it is the company that Misawa started when he left All Japan to form Noah, and now that he has passed away, it's kind of like his legacy, and they don't want to end the Misawa legacy, especially with him no longer being with us.
Right.
That's the only reason I can see them keeping it afloat.
They don't want to be seen as crapping on him or his legacy. I get that, but every rose has its thorn, every swan has a sad, sad song, or whatever the lyrics to that song are. It's just, at some point, you have to accept that this isn't going to work anymore. As much as you love it, maybe it has to die. Maybe the time comes that even with respect, you have to say goodbye. Like ECW. It had to end at some point. Even if we didn't want it to, we had to say goodbye.
Yeah, it's not the same promotion that it was when Misawa founded it. And it's the one thing that I think you could do and kind of keep the Noah name and the GHC title legacies alive is New Japan has this Young Lions Cup that they have, that they're running monthly with younger talent. It's like, why not turn Noah into your NXT promotion where you feature the Young Lions, have them fight over these GHC titles, which could be lesser titles, and when they're ready to move up, you move them up to the main New Japan roster.
That'd be fine with me. I think even Abby would 2 thumbs up for that one.
I mean, yeah, that only makes sense, and that way you kind of get to keep the heritage and the lineage that Misawa started. You're not getting rid of the belts, you're not getting rid of the promotion name, but it becomes, a developmental feeder territory for New Japan, which makes all the sense in the world.
Amen. So, we've talked about the clusterfuck that is the road to WrestleMania. We've talked about the much more enjoyable road to Invasion Attack, and Invasion Attack is going to be a fantastic show. But what else is there to talk about, or are we going to pull the plug on our own show and call it a wrap this week? What do you say, Jason?
There's one other point on Raw that I wanted to hit on, and that was just we had some great matches. I already talked about AJ versus Owens being a phenomenal match, but the New Day also put on a phenomenal match on Raw, too.
People are a little cranky right now about the fact that the New Day is doing the induction for the Fabulous Freebirds. Do you have a problem with it or not?
With Michael Hayes being a racist or what? I mean, I think
no, but just the idea that they didn't bring in somebody that was contemporaries with the Freebirds,
like Kevin Von Erich or somebody, or
Yes, exactly. That's what people are saying that are mad about it.
I mean, I don't have a problem with it because you have the New Day as current wrestlers in the WWE that are wrestling under the Freebird rules that the Freebirds created. That is why I don't have a problem with it. That I mean, they don't have a direct connection to them, but they're using a format that the Freebirds started in professional wrestling, and I think that pays great homage to the Freebirds.
Actually, there is a direct connection, which I only learned about in the last 24 hours. It turns out that Michael Hayes actually writes a lot of the scripts for the New Day.
I didn't know that. Wow, okay.
I didn't either, but apparently he is their biggest fan backstage. He's the one that says, push these guys to the moon and let's have them go out there and do this, and gives them a script and lets them improvise from there.
I mean, yeah, I guess you had Kevin Von Erich induct the Von Erichs when they inducted the Von Erich family. I mean,
Yeah,
I guess
so
he doesn't really need to come back. I can't really think of anybody that they feuded with when they were in WCW, even with the Garvin years, that would be quite that name like Kevin Von Erich that you could bring in. Somebody who's still alive that could do that. I mean, like, I would think the only other guy you could have induct them would be Kevin Von Erich, and I'm just as happy with the New Day inducting him as I would be with Kevin Von Erich inducting him. I don't have a problem with either one.
And if we're being perfectly cynical about it, you can take out the fact that they are the modern day Freebird Rules team. You can take out the fact that Michael Hayes writes their scripts. Let's just get right down to brass tacks. It's the WWE Hall of Fame. It's not the same as a quote unquote real Hall of Fame because it's designed to do one thing. Sell the WWE Hall of Fame merchandise, sell the WWE Hall of Fame programs, sell the WWE Network to watch the WWE Hall of Fame, and sell the merchandise that all the people that are on it or being inducted have. So, if the New Day wants to come out there and shill unicorn horns, that's what they're going to do.
And I forgot to mention it on the podcast last week or 2 weeks ago, but when they put together that video package of the Freebirds, I really, really enjoyed watching that on Raw. Like, it was that last week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, but I really enjoyed watching that package, and that brought up a lot of memories that I had from over the years watching as I was growing up the Freebirds.
Did I tell you that I actually had my dad watching the Freebirds over Christmas break?
I think so. You said you had all you could get was like YouTube or something, and you had to you managed to just put on like a Freebirds versus Von Erichs match or something.
Right, yeah, I had a classic episode of World Class Championship Wrestling that was on YouTube that WWE hadn't flagged or pulled down, and it was obviously a well-worn VHS tape that somebody had dubbed off and converted and uploaded because it was wavy and grainy and all the things you remember about tapes you watched too many times, but it was still damn fun, and my dad and I sat there and watched it and had a blast.
Which kind of brings this whole thing full circle with WWE and World Class Championship Wrestling. It's like one of my biggest memories of World Class Championship Wrestling was the Parade of Champions that happened at Texas Stadium where Kerry Von Erich won the NWA heavyweight title from Ric Flair. And hey, that's where they're going to be holding WrestleMania this year.
Yes, well, it does seem like it's coming full circle. And I think that's why people would have said, hey, have Kevin Von Erich there. They're in Dallas. It would be meaningful. But, I think he'll still end up involved in the show some way, somehow, even if he's not doing the induction. I have a feeling he'll be there in the audience. They'll make a reference to it. He'll stand up and take a bow. I fully expect it.
That's what I was going to say. I would expect you would see him on camera somewhere in the crowd, being that it is being held in Dallas, and it's just insane seating capacity there. And he is Kevin Von Erich. He is from the area. So, yeah, and it is, where history took place there back in, what was that, 84?
In mid-80s, 84, 85.
Yeah, where they used to draw. And then, yeah, sadly, this Parade of Champions shows just did dwindling numbers as the years went on. There were diminishing returns, certainly, with that. But, yeah, the one where Kerry Von Erich won the title from Ric Flair was huge. I mean, that stadium was packed to the rafters.
Well, there's also diminishing returns with World Class in general, with the sad amount of deaths that occurred in a few years span there of all their great stars, including most of the Von Erich family. So you were only going to get
Hernandez. Yeah, he died.
Yeah.
That was killer. He was one of their best heels.
Indeed, that's why there's a DVD set called the Triumph and Tragedy of World Class Championship Wrestling, because that's what it was. When they were at their peak, there was nobody hotter, and when it fell apart, nobody crashed any harder.
Or even guys that they would bring in to use, like Bruiser Brody. It was just like, oh man.
Yeah, well, we don't even want to talk about what happened to Bruiser Brody, because that was just shady as fuck, and it will never not be.
Yeah, that's kind of a downer note to end things on too.
Yeah, let's not end on a downer note. Let's end on a positive note. Let's get some positivity, as the New Day would say. Let's plug some things with positivity. Jason, what do you got to plug?
Plug my cooking blog at veggiebending.wordpress.com. I'll plug myself on Twitter. You can check me out at Great Sudoku. I will plug njpwworld.com, the best 999 yen you can spend a month. Would you like to give that exchange rate, Stevie?
Yes, the current exchange rate for 999 yen is $8.84. So that's either down or up a penny from last week.
But it's still under $9, and I'll plug Abby too on Twitter. She's at AbbyBrook2121.
Yes, indeed. And actually, that's the only thing I'm going to plug to close this out too. At AbbyBrook2121. Get well, Abby. We hope you're back soon. We hope you're feeling better, so you can get up at stupid o'clock in the morning to watch Sinahashi and Stupid Tana and his stupid ponytail and his stupid air guitar.
Stupid braids and taking on the sleeves.
Hey, I want to get in a plug too.
Okay, go for it.
The power of positivity from producer Kevin. Plug away.
Undisputed Wrestling Show this past week, totally fucking awesome. This was we always do a good show on the Undisputed Wrestling Show. But this one, I just really loved listening to every minute of it. The first hour, we got to listen to Ricardo Rodriguez talk about not only, what happened with his WWE career, but everything he's done after. I mean, he has just become a whirlwind across the globe. And I wouldn't have expected that out of a guy with his stature that he had in WWE, where that's ended up catapulting him. So you want to listen to that. And then second hour, just a lot of pure fun. We caught up with one of Stevie J's favorite guys, Sugar D.
Yes, indeed. Special Dark Sugar Dunkerton.
That was fun listening to him and Will Huckabee just jaw back and forth. Great fun. Download the episode today.
Can we call it the Undisputed Wrestling Show that totally reeks of awesomeness?
I don't think we can officially do that until we get Edge and Christian and WWE license.
Just leave it to Cue Ball Carmichael. He probably knows those guys from somewhere, some way along the road. He can probably get them on a show.
Maybe so.
Maybe so. So everybody stay tuned to the Undisputed Wrestling Show. Check out this week, last week, and every other week. It's all in the archives at AngryMarks.com. And it goes up on YouTube on a pretty regular basis as well at YouTube.com/AngryMarks.com. So thank you to one and all, to Jordan J. Garber, to Jason Harlan, to producer Kevin, and to Abby, who couldn't be here, but we wish her well. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Punishment that you earned is time you learn to burn, 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 burn.